Welcome to the Time to Level Up podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Liebross. Each week, I focus on the systems, strategy, and big thinking you need to CEO your business and life to the next level. Are you ready? Let's go. So I am going on a podcast recording marathon because my podcast producer and our team, Stacey Harris over at Uncommonly More, they take December off. That is a goal of hers, and I am in full support of that goal. And what it just means is that we have to be a little more organized and a little more ahead of the game and do a lot of batch recording. So the podcast that you're going to listen to today is a replay with a few edits and a few additions of an episode that aired back in the summer of 2022. It is an important one, though, for this time of year as we head into 2024, because it is about goals and our fear of setting them. And I positioned this fear of setting them back when I first recorded this as anti-goal setting, someone who is anti-goal. But as I have done my research on thinking big, I think it is more accurate to say that those women that don't set goals are really just scared. They fear that setting goals will change things for them, okay? Which it might, right? Which it probably will. And they fear what's going to happen to them when they set goals. What if they are successful in reaching them, but what if they fail? What will other people think? So it really goes back to those 9 common fears that all entrepreneurs face. Those fears are the reasons why the women I'm talking about today, this quote unquote anti-goal setting crowd, don't set goals. So whenever you hear me say anti-goal setting or anti-goal person, I want you to reframe it as someone who just has some normal human fear. And also when you're listening to the remainder of this episode, you'll hear me refer to my group coaching program called Committed to Growth. But since the original recording of the episode, I have renamed that group and added lots of amazing things to it. Renamed it I've Got This, because what the women in that group really want is to feel as if they've got it. Now, to feel as if you've got it, you do have to commit. But I think I've Got This really embodies the purpose of that group. If you are in that group, you want that feeling of control. You want to be able to control your own destiny. You want to feel like you've got your act together. So the women in I've Got This have all made about 100K in their business, but they're not convinced that they can keep going at this current rate. They're not convinced that they really know what they're doing. They're not convinced that they are business owners or CEOs. They may still be operating from that kind of hustle mentality, from the place of I've started a business because I had a passion, that kind of thing. And they probably all are experiencing fear and imposter syndrome, and all of those things are getting in the way. And most of them are also scared of setting goals. They are kind of the anti-goal setting crowd. But one of the amazing things that happens once they start to engage in coaching inside I've Got This is that they start to love goals and they start to hit goals. In fact, this morning, I had a call with a client whose goal last December, so December of 2022, was to double her 2022 revenue in 2023. And before October was over, October of 2023, she had already doubled her revenue. So she had surpassed her goal. Okay. And she probably was one of those anti-goal setting on paper kind of people. So keep in mind as you're listening to this episode that Committed to Growth is really I've Got This. And if you're someone who feels like you're kind of anti-goal setting, you probably are an amazing candidate and would benefit greatly from I've Got This. Okay. So next step on that would be to set up a consult call with me and we can review where you're at and see if that really is the case that you're ready for I've got this, or maybe you're even ready to be in the mastermind. But regardless, Committed to Growth is now called I've Got This. And I do have a podcast episode just about I've Got This as well, if you want to look back in the archives, and we will link it in the show notes. So if you're curious about what's involved in that coaching program. Okay, ready to talk about some goals and why you might be afraid to set them? This is a great episode if you are really wanting to do a little bit of eavesdropping in on your own thinking. So you ready, anti-goalers? You know who I'm talking about. Here we go.
You know who I mean. You know if you're one of them. I like to think of this as, remember in high school, at least in my high school, back in Winchester, Massachusetts, in the late 80s, there were the jocks and the nerds and the theater geeks. And we had we used to call them the courtyard people, who would smoke and do whatever else out there in the courtyard. So I'm entering a new category into the categories of high school people and even adults. And these are the anti-goalers. Okay. Now, they are not picketing on the sidewalk with posters that say we hate goals, but they are saying things like, I don't love goals. I avoid setting goals. I don't see a reason to set goals. I don't set goals. Goal setting is too hard. It's a waste of time. I avoid it at all costs. And I get these types of comments a lot on consult calls because I might ask, what are your goals, or do you have any? And I'm not judgy about this because I realize this is a huge segment of the population. It is more just a curiosity factor on my part to see kind of where my prospective client is. Now, I have got good news. Those that do start to work with me, they all learn to love goals. They figure out that having goals is really the key to happiness, in a sense. And they become confident, not just in setting goals, but in achieving them and figuring out how to achieve them and not getting stuck necessarily in the how, trusting and believing that they will happen. So that's the good news. So I want you to ask yourself, do you have any or a bit of the anti-goal in you? And we're going to talk about why that is. So let's talk about the two different types of clients that I work with in terms of where they are in their quote unquote goal thinking. And I want you to ask yourself which category you fall into. Okay. So the first category of women who don't have goals or who are anti-goalers, or maybe who have them in their heads, but they're not writing them down. If this is you, what's really happening is that you haven't committed to your goals. So I work with these kinds of women inside Committed to Growth. Notice the title of what I have named this coaching platform, Committed to Growth, because they are wanting to commit to goals, but they just haven't done it yet. Okay. And inside there, we figure out why you aren't formulating goals and then writing them down. Because I know if you're in there, you're interested in having goals. You're interested in reducing your stress. You're interested in being more productive or finding more time in your day, but you just haven't taken the step to get the support you need to commit to it. And this is the step by engaging in Committed to Growth, becoming part of this amazing community of driven women. This is the step that you are looking for, or what you're craving is the support to make it happen. Because at this point, you're kind of at that interested, craving place in terms of goal setting, but you haven't committed. So if this is you, then I want to see you inside Committed to Growth. We have so much fun. So much fun. I just actually posted a reel of my client, Emily, who I have to admit I have not been working with for an entire year, but in the past 6 months, she has already reached her 2022 goal of creating 6 figures in her business with 3 little teeny children. And go check out her reel, which I reposted on Instagram, and you'll see what I mean. She's gotten to a place where she's not just interested in this goal, she's actually committed to it. Okay, second category of women. They're the ones that have their goals written down. They're used to setting goals, but often they don't set the goals that will really and truly move the needle in their business. So if you're choosing on focusing on other things, other goals, rather than the ones that might really move the needle, this is you, okay? You're choosing to focus on the fires or the pressing issues or what seems like an emergency. So you've got goals, but the goals might be really revolving around the emergencies, the fires, the pressing issues. You're not setting goals that will change something or allow for your business to do something different or differently. Perhaps you really need a new structure, or you need a new way of hiring, or you're needing to relook at how you're going to reach your financial goal. So these women who are inside my Runway to Freedom program, they're goal setters, okay? But they are craving bigger, more impactful goals. And because they really ultimately, their ultimate goal is to have some more freedom in their business. So if you want freedom in your business too, and remember, this freedom can look like a lot of things. If you want freedom in your business to do what you want to do, work on what matters most to you, spend time with your family, figure out a long-term vision, but you just can't figure out how to do that, and you're avoiding really setting goals on digging deeper into that, you belong in Runway to Freedom. Because you're familiar with goals, you write them down, but maybe they're just not the right ones that are going to move the needle the farthest. So I posted a quick little reel about my client Morgan the other day, and she falls into this category. Okay, so she's got goals, but she really wanted to work on herself and her business in a different way. And that is how we are creating a runway to freedom for her in her business. Okay, so which of these 2 types of people are you? And as we begin this discussion of why women avoid setting goals, I want you to consider what your goals are now, if any. And here is where, and I want to add that with a coach, you actually do the work of figuring out why you're avoiding setting goals and learn how to set them, that goals that align with you and get you what you want. With listening to a podcast, I know you're listening and I know you're absorbing, but are you really doing the work for real? Okay, so what I mean is you can listen to me talk about goals, but I want you to ask yourself, am I really doing the work that it takes to create better, more effective goals? Now, I love podcasts, but even me, I find myself when I'm listening to podcasts saying, that is a great idea, or I should really do that, but then I don't always do it. So with a coach, when I'm working with my coach, I always do it. So as I go through these 10, I'm going to share with you 10 reasons why women don't set goals. If you find yourself saying, yes, that's me, I so need to address this, or I wish I could be better at goals, come join us inside Committed to Growth or Runway to Freedom. Come do that. Explore that option of getting yourself the support you need to stop being an anti-goaler. Do it. Make that a goal, a quick daily goal to go find out more about both of these programs. You can do that on my website on the Work With Me page. And you can also find out more about the Full Focus Planner Masterclass on that page as well, at the bottom where it says Masterclass, where we're gonna be doing a lot of this work in this masterclass. Okay, so let's get to our 10 reasons why women don't necessarily set goals or set the right goals that are going to move the needle. All right, number 1, they're scared. If you're scared, you might be asking yourself, what if I do reach these goals? Would that upset the apple cart at work or at home? What would it mean if I set the goals and reach them? What it would mean is that I might have to keep going and I'd have to have different goals. But what if I don't reach the goals? Would that be a fail? That would not feel good to state that I failed. Now remember, I've got other podcasts that there is no such thing as fail. It's just winning or learning. But in this example, or reason number 1 why people don't set goals, being scared comes in all sorts of forms. Being scared of reaching the goal, of not reaching the goal, of failing. Okay, so that was number 1. Is that you? Are you a little bit scared? Reason number 2 that people don't set goals. Okay, you might say to yourself, well, I'm waiting for the right time. And what this really means is that you're waiting for life to happen to you versus you taking control of your life. I end this podcast by always saying now is the time. There never is a better time for you to consider leveling up, right? There is no right time. If you're waiting for the right time, then that means you're waiting for life to happen to you versus you taking control of your life. So you're the main character in your life, okay? You're on stage and you get to move your story along. We are not waiting for others or other events or things outside of us to move our lives along. You get to move it along. So there is no such thing, my friends, as the right time. Reason number 3 for the anti-goalers. Anti-goalers don't really realize that they can leverage their own agency. Now, what do I mean by this? I have mentioned this word before on some podcasts. This might be a word that you're really not familiar with this definition. Okay? So the tools that we can use to leverage our own agency, which means directing our own brains. If we use our own agency, we are directing our own brains. And that means that we are managing our thoughts. Okay. So a lot of what we do in coaching is learn how to manage our mind. I call this thought work, which is I'm going to guess a lot of you have never done thought work. Okay. Thought work is what we need to combat our belief that we cannot leverage our own agency or that we cannot direct our own brains. We have power over ourselves. Okay? We get to control what we want to think. And something that kind of falls into this not leveraging our own agency is recognizing that even though, for example, we've got 3 kids, we still can work on our goals. Maybe if the goal is to get on the Peloton every day, you might realize that that's just not happening between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. That is kind of a constraint that you have, but you can work within your own constraints. Okay, so you can get on the Peloton really early in the morning or late at night. Okay, that's leveraging your own agency or your own directing your own brain. Okay, and that kind of falls into the 4th reason that people are anti-goalers. They tell you that their schedule is too full and they feel like they can't take on anything else. Okay? That's not true, my friends. or they tell you that they don't have money in the bank to tackle that goal and they can't take on anything else. Remember, time and money are two of your most valuable resources, but brain power is the most valuable. And that goes back to having agency over your own schedule or over your own bank account. And if your schedule is too full or if your bank account is too low, then what that really tells you is that your goals are not the goals that you want them to be. They're different because you're spending your time and money on other things if your bank account is too low or your schedule is too full. And maybe what is in the full schedule is what you should be focusing on, but maybe it isn't. And this is a perfect opportunity for you to reassess. Right? Do I like how I'm spending my time? Do I like how I'm spending my money? Do I want to reevaluate and create a goal around it? All right, here's the fifth reason you might be an anti-goaler. You're getting stuck on the how even before you write the goal. You have no idea of how that might happen. Okay, now how do we get over this? You have to realize that if you get curious and you start to source solutions, you can figure out the how. If you knew how already, you would have already done it, my friends. You probably would have already done it. So yes, you may not know the how, but that is not a reason to not write the goal because you can become curious and figure it out. Okay, here's the sixth thing. You believe that you won't love your goal. That you won't love your goal. You don't love it. I don't love this goal. Okay, so therefore, I'm not going to write it down. I'm not going to commit to it. I'm not going to work toward it. But here's my question to you. Do you have to love them? Who says you have to love them? The only thing these goals need to be are smarter. There's a framework called Writing Smarter Goals, which we're going to talk about inside that Full Focus Planner Masterclass. Okay. And I think the most important part of writing smarter goals are the E and the R at the end. They need to be exciting and risky, which means that you may not have a love affair with them because they are kind of uncomfortable. And goals in and of themselves, I think I would add to the definition of goals if I were looking it up, need to be a bit uncomfortable. So you don't have to love them. You just have to commit to it. Here's reason number 7. Women are anti-goalers. They worry about what other people think. What would my husband think about this goal? Just having it as a goal, reaching it or not reaching it? What would my colleagues think about this goal? Would they have thoughts about it? And how would those thoughts impact me? Well, guess what? They wouldn't impact you because they're not your thoughts. They're theirs. We can't control what other people think. So many podcasts on that if you want to go back. Okay? So many podcasts on that. But we can't control what other people think. So that in and of itself, my friends, is a very poor excuse for not writing a goal and being an anti-goaler. And I think some of us think it might be braggadocious to tell people that you've reached the goal. But you know what? I think that's inspiring. You get to choose what you want to think about other people telling you if they've reached their goal or not. Which kind of brings me to number 8. Okay? Anti-goalers feel like they need to share their goals. You don't need to share your goals. You don't need to share your goals when you write them or if you reach them or if you don't reach them. You only really should be sharing your goals with people who will help you get there. So many of the women I coach, they don't even talk about the coaching they're getting with others. Okay. They don't talk about the goals that they've set with others. They only talk about it within our coaching community, which makes our coaching community so amazing because we are all there to support each other, to cheer each other on, to feed each other with ideas about how to reach the goals or how to think about the goals. Most of the women inside my group are not talking about the coaching that they are getting or the goals they're setting with their spouse or with others or with their colleagues or with their mother or with their sisters. They're just not, because there's no reason to. Only share these goals with people who are going to be completely on board, and not just saying they're on board, completely on board with you. And that is what we find inside both Committed to Growth and Runway to Freedom. Because we're a bunch of driven and ambitious women in there who don't want to apologize. So we don't put ourselves in situations where we're tempted to apologize. We only surround ourselves with women who lift us up. Does that sound like you? Come inside with us. It would be so fun. All right, brings me to number 9. If you're not coming inside with us, or if you're being an anti-goaler, it's probably because you're letting buffering have power over you. So buffering is when you decide you are going to direct your energy towards something else that does not align with the direction you want to move in or does not help you move forward. So this might be emptying the dishwasher, cleaning out your inbox, Netflix. Kids can even be a buffer because we can say to ourselves, oh, there's no way I'm going to be able to tackle that. The kids are home. Or this might be other projects, like all of a sudden you decide, let's remodel the kitchen instead of going all in on my business. It might be the season. You might use summer as a buffer in and of itself. Yeah. And what does that mean? That just means that you're creating an excuse for yourself to remain just interested in your goal, not committed. Okay. And inside that full focus planner, one of the great parts about it is it helps you address this on a daily basis. It helps you figure out what your daily big 3 should be, the 3 things that must happen, which helps you avoid the buffering and allows you to become committed. Okay. 10th reason, last one, is that you are not willing to say to yourself, I don't know everything, and that's okay. Sometimes when we set a goal, we think we need to know all the parts of it. We need to know exactly what's going to happen if we achieve it. We need to be able to think about all the roadblocks along the way. I like thinking about all the roadblocks along the way, but there's no way we're going to know all of them. And we can say to ourselves, oh, I'm not ready yet. I don't have all the pieces in place. But what I want you to embrace is saying, I don't know everything, and that's okay. And that's okay is going to be your favorite new phrase. We do a lot of that inside coaching, saying, and that's okay. Because if we don't, we put ourselves into a place where we're feeling miserable, and that certainly is not helping us get out of the anti-goal stage. And lastly, if there could be a number 11, I had a client share this with me yesterday. She said to me, what if it's not the right goal? So she's kind of in a place where she's trying to get out of being an anti-goaler. She's definitely interested. She's trying to get to the committed place, but she's asking herself, what if it's not the right goal? And kind of like the number 6, I'm not sure I love my goal. My question to you is, do you have to know it is the right goal? Is there such a thing as the right goal? I would argue no. There's just goals. So my friends, if any of these 10 or 11 reasons resonated with you and you see yourself saying or feeling or experiencing one of these 11 10, 11 reasons why you're not setting goals, or you're not setting goals that will help you move forward and help you align with your vision, making your vision actually a reality. Instead of just listening to my podcast, I encourage you to do the work around it. And that is getting coached, having someone actually help you see what's going on inside your brain for real, and then creating change. That's getting coached. That's not listening to a podcast. So I encourage you to get the support you need in some form, either inside Committed to Growth or One Runway to Freedom, or inside the Full Focus Planner Masterclass. Some way, make that a goal to get what you need so that you can become the best version of yourself, so that you can create a life and not just a to-do list. If you want more information on coaching, you can go to the Work With Me page. But really what's going to happen is you and I set up a quick little phone call to figure out what's best for you. So head over to the website, and at the very bottom, there is a link that says book a call. Book a call. They're free. I bet the call in and of itself is worth $1,000. Even if you decide not to move forward, the information you're going to glean from having me ask you some hard questions is super valuable, worth millions and millions of dollars. What if you were able to set goals that are exciting and risky, not the goals that you just think you should have? Let's get clear on what matters to you most and how to focus your attention on those things. Not just focusing your attention on the easy things, easy to cross off things. Let's get focused on the things that will give you power. All right, my friends, now is the time to level up. Don't let life continue to happen to you. You get to create the life that you want. You've got that ability. You're capable. Dogs aren't capable, but you are. All right. Have a great week. See you next time. Hey, listening to podcasts is great, but you also have to do something to kick your business up a notch. You need to take some action, right? So go to Andrea's with an S, links with an S.com, andreaslinks.com, and take the quiz. I guarantee you'll walk away knowing exactly what your next best step is to level up.